Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a new Fire TV stick from Amazon. This one is a little more significant than some of the others we've looked at in the past, and the reason is that Amazon is changing the operating system that drives their Fire TV devices, and this one, the 4K Select, is the first one with that new operating system, and unfortunately it is the minimally viable product. I will save you a lot of time here. If you're watching this video right after this device came out, go with the Fire TV 4K stick. That's the next step up from this one, because this is very, very minimal now. We're going to look at what they're putting in place at the moment, and we'll probably come back to this in 6 months or so after this OS has had some time to cook, because right now it's really not a great experience. Let's get to it. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid for the Fire TV Stick Select here with my own funds. All of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one has reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded, and of course this is not a sponsored review. Now, the price point on this will vary based on whatever sale Amazon has going on right now, but where they've positioned this one is that it's slightly more expensive than the 1080p Fire TV stick, and it's slightly less expensive than the next step up in the Fire TV Stick 4K line. And right now, my advice would be to spend a little bit extra money that next step up costs to get, I think, better hardware at this point. So the box here looks like a lot of their other stuff. You got your remote control, of course, and this one is still running with a micro USB connector, not a USB Type-C connector. It only has 1 GB of RAM, and as you'll note here, it is using Wi-Fi 5, AC Wi-Fi, and not Wi-Fi 6 like some of the other Fire TV sticks are currently using. So it is a bit hindered out of the box here, and again, for the price difference, it's not all that much more to go up to something a little bit better. Why don't we get this thing hooked up though, and let's see what this new interface and this new operating system look like. All right, so here we are on the home page of the new Fire TV Select stick here. You'll note that it looks very similar to the other devices that are running with a different operating system, so it will feel familiar to you if you've used any of those recently. But there are some areas where you'll notice some issues. The first big problem here are the apps. Now, most of the major streaming applications are here. So on mine, I've got Disney Plus and Netflix and Apple TV Plus, and all the apps that are represented by the major streaming outfits are available here. So that's not really a problem unless you've got something more obscure that you want to watch. However, some of these apps are going to be hosted in the cloud and streamed to your device. So not just the content, but the app itself. So for example, the NFL Network here is an Amazon cloud-hosted app. You'll see that right here, which is going to require additional internet performance to be able to get the app to work along with what it will stream to you. Apparently this is a temporary thing in that Amazon is providing this streaming service to apps that are popular to give them time to port their apps over. So the experience on some of these streaming apps won't be great. Although I've got a pretty decent internet connection here and the apps work, but they're just feeling a little more sluggish than they otherwise would be on the hardware. At the moment, there are no game streaming apps available. Additionally, things that you might use that are more specialized, like the Tableau or HD Home Run apps to use with their network TV tuners, those apps are not available right now. So there are some things that are not going to be here that you might be using on your existing hardware. Plex is on here, and I did play with it last night pretty extensively. The app is not so great yet, and it lacks a lot of the features that the Android version that runs on the Fire TV sticks, other than this one, run on. So although you'll get access to most of their streaming content, a lot of the higher-end video that you might want to play from your Plex server is not going to work all that well here, if at all. I did find like some older shows like Star Trek Voyager that are on my Plex server worked fine, but a lot of the other stuff didn't. The video and audio settings here are very limited, so you don't have all the pass-through options that you have with other Fire TV sticks running on the Android-based operating system. So like the OS here, I do think that Plex needs some time to get their app cooked for this new OS, and it might be difficult to bring all the features over that are currently on the Android version. There are no games available on here yet. Additionally, they don't allow you to sideload anything either. I'm sure the community will come up with some ways to get around some of these things, but at the moment, This is a very limited experience, almost limited like a Roku, but with far less app choices to choose from. So just be aware of that. Your major streaming providers are here, but a lot of the other stuff that you might be using that's more obscure won't be. But I think it does meet the criteria for a minimally viable product. So for example, if we go into a popular streaming app like Netflix, it will load up here and you can get access to everything that you typically watch on Netflix. And if I scroll down to one of their Creative Commons things that we can play here without getting a copyright strike, it'll spin up here very quickly. This does support Dolby Atmos audio through these streaming services. It also supports HDR, but not Dolby Vision. So it is not going to be as good as the next Fire TV Stick Up, which does support Dolby Vision. That will give you better quality images on TVs that support it. But as you can see here, I'm able to get around the app here pretty quickly. It's not feeling any different than other low-end Fire TV sticks feel, at least with a decent Wi-Fi connection. So it's not bad here for doing basic streaming, which I think this was really designed for. Now, it does have what looks like a native YouTube app, and it seems to be doing okay with 4K content, including HDR content. I did have to force it, though, into 4K 60 playback most of the time. Otherwise, it defaults to 1080p at 60 and has the device upscale it. But it is able to mostly keep up with 60 frames per second content, although occasionally I've noticed drop frames that result in a little bit of stuttering. So it's doing better now than it did a little bit earlier when I was testing this previously. So the performance might be a little hit or miss here initially, but YouTube does seem to be doing okay on this new Fire TV stick. Now, of course, many movies and many streaming TV shows are shot at 24 frames per second, which means that your TV needs to switch into 24p mode to display those shows properly. If you know, you know. And unfortunately, this device doesn't seem to be doing that just yet. So there is an option here in the display section. If you go over to this option to match original frame rate, you can turn it on. But so far, none of the apps that I've tested have successfully done that. I did see Netflix telling me that it was going to do it, but it never did it. So all of the stuff that I've been streaming on my LG OLED upstairs has been coming through at 4K 60, even with this match frame rate enabled. This is an issue on some of the other Fire TV devices as well, and it's continuing on this one. And this really requires the app makers to have their apps switch the television over properly. And so far, none of them that I've tested are doing that just yet. Now, voice and A-word functions are working properly. So for example, I can search for content, Star Trek: The Next Generation, by holding down the microphone button here and having it do a voice search. That seems to be executing the same as it does on other Fire TV devices. Additionally, your home control through Amazon's ecosystem works as well. So for example, I can say, turn off the overhead light, and hopefully, there it goes. In a second, things will turn off. So all of those things work. Turn on the overhead light. So a lot of the functions that you've come to expect from your Amazon devices will work here at least. But again, some rough edges on the streaming side. Now, they still maintain some equipment control options here. I know this was a popular feature on some of the other Amazon devices. So if you go into equipment control, you can control your receiver and your soundbar from here. I seem to recall other versions of Fire TV devices being able to turn on game consoles and all that other stuff. I'm not seeing those options here, so it looks to be a little more limited at the moment. So if you are a fan of Fire TV, I don't think you're going to be a fan of this device or the current status of Vega OS. It is very limited in what it can do. This has less features than the 1080p Fire TV stick that costs less than this one does. And that includes, of course, not being able to load in games. You can't sideload other Android apps onto it. It is locked down in a way that we haven't seen Fire TVs locked down before, and that will likely continue as they roll this out onto other Fire TV devices in the product line. That is Amazon's intent here, to have their own operating system, but that OS is going to be very limited until all of these app makers come around and start supporting it. So this is what it is. This is what we're going to see into the future here. I am sure there will be more robustness added over time, so we'll revisit this in the near future. As a basic streaming device, if you're just looking for Netflix and Disney Plus support along with Pluto and some of the other free services, it's fine. It will do all of that. but I am concerned what this might mean for the future of Fire TV. It is definitely a lot more limited than what we're used to. So that will do it for this one. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.